What does that tell you, Luke? Does that tell you you're a pain in the ass? No.
Opportunity.
Pardon?
Opportunity.
Opportunity. Do you think that guy that's got $35 million in holdings, right? He's got 300 customers at $35, $40 million in holdings, wants any other greasy guy that's invested money on Bay Street to have that client as a customer? Right? The guy that's got $5 million that's sitting beside the guy in his boat that's got $5 million and talk about his investor who yielded him 13, 14 points last year. Do you think he wants that money going anywhere but his hands? How do you keep that money if you're a financial investor? How do you keep it? How do you keep the money in your portfolio?
By the relationship.
The relationship you have with the customer. It all comes back to the relationship you have with the customer. We're going to talk about a number of things today. One, we're going to talk about boxing in. Anybody heard that frame before? Term?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You put the customer into a situation where whatever objection they have, you already have the answer to, and you make them realize there's no reason but to say yes and do that.
Absolutely. So boxing in is just very simple. It's a really elegant way to take the customer's internal beliefs so that if they make any decision other than yes, they're going to go against what their internal beliefs are. All right, so that's boxing in. That's really important. So again, just so you understand, when we use the term boxing in, we mean our job is to make sure that any answer but yes is going to go against what he believes in. That's first and foremost, number one, no question. We also want boxing in to give a customer a sense of power or persuasion. Because to feel empowered is a good thing or a bad thing, Lauren?
Very good.
Very good thing, right? A sense of empowerment, when the customer feels empowered because they got the information, you've built massive rapport, you've gathered intelligence with the proper tone, asking the right questions, providing a service to them, feeling that they can trust you. That's an empowered state, correct? Versus the normal situation in an automotive dealership, which would be the walls are up, I've got 5 minutes, I want to see that car, how much is it, and I'm done. That would be a very disempowered state. That's why customers want to get out of what, Sherry? They want to get out of here, right? They're very disempowered. So if we know they're disempowered when they come in, if we know how to handle that, well, then it makes it very easy for us to do business, right? So every time a customer comes into our store, our goal should be, our state should be to empower the customer. Write that down. Empower the customer. So what we want to do is we want to create, we know this already, just a little review, create logical and emotional reasons to buy. Buy when? Now, today, right? So we want to create logical and emotional reasons for the customer to buy today, because it doesn't matter if you're in our store today, 1.2 dealerships they visit, you're going to get our best foot. And our best foot might not be price. Our best foot might not be that payment. Our best foot might be me. And the reason I got into this industry. And did I tell you about the way our store operates? And, right? That might be what makes the customer go. Remember, finding that customer's trigger point is like picking a lock, right? We just keep going until we, you don't know when the customer's going to say, well, yeah, that makes sense. I get that. So we want to keep that in the back of our mind always. We want to make sure that customers understand that all we have in mind for them is what we feel is best for them. That's it. We have no other alternative, we have no other agenda, we have nothing else other than making sure when they leave here today, with or without a car, that we have their best interest in mind. Absolute best interest. Always. Always, always, always. Now, we talked about before, we sold cars to customers that maybe or could have been argued that an 84-month amortization isn't the right thing. It could have been argued that not putting money down on the deal is a bad thing. It could have been argued that a 60-month term would be much better for the customer long term. But at the end of the day, in our heart of hearts, when we did the transaction for the right reasons. And that's what our job is on a daily basis, to make sure we do the job, or we cater to the transaction for all of the right reasons. But if we want to develop a trusting relationship by building rapport and gathering intelligence and using the right tonality, we have to have the customer's interest at heart. Because if we don't, we're dead in the water. It's one customer at a time. What will happen is, you'll sell 100 cars this year, you'll sell 90 cars next year, you'll sell 60 cars the year after, and you'll be out of the car business. That's what will happen. Guaranteed. Sure as shit. That's what will happen. Right? Less than 5% of the industry, write this down, will grow. Less than 5% of the industry will grow in retail volume year after year after year. Individual salesperson combined. So what we're going to do when we talk about boxing in, we're going to use the term looping. Has anybody heard that before? I've said it. We're going to use the term looping, and we're going to use specific, and this is where you're going to have to write, specific language patterns to loop. And all looping means is this, is normally when I start, I say, hey, welcome to Lally, my name's Todd, and you are, and I say, hey, Lou, welcome to the store, do you mind if I tell you how we do business today? And I go through all that. And then I say, hey, do you mind if I get some information? Actually, I wouldn't say, do you mind, just because I'm a professional, I'm going to say, hey, I'm just going to grab some information from you real quickly so I can expedite this process. And we write all the information down. And then we go out, we walk around the automobile, right? And then we go on a test drive. And then we come back and say, hey, based on everything you've seen so far, do you want the car registered in your name, your wife's name, or both? And they say, well, I'm not really sure if I'm ready to go yet. And then we just continue to go down the scale, right? We just continue to move and move and move and move and move. That's their traditional car deal, right? When we hit an objection right here that says, no, I don't want to do that, we just continue to plow through, right? What do you mean you don't want to do it? We just went on a test drive. You said, do you like the car? Do you like me? Dealership okay? So we just continue to plow down. Where looping says, looping is a psychology. Because we know in our mind that what has to happen before the customer pulls the trigger on a deal. 3 things have to happen. Any transaction, watch, boat, car, truck, SUV, minivan, house, condo, MRI machine. 3 things have to happen before the customer pulls the trigger. They have to what? 1, love your product. Love your product a little bit.
Emotionally and logically.
Emotionally and logically, on a scale of 1 to 10, they have to love it how much? A 10. So if they don't love your product, you're flipping. Right? You're peeing in the wind. They don't love your product, then there's a problem. Right? Now, is your product just the car? No, I don't think it is it? What's the second thing they have to love? They have to love you. Or trust you. Or like you. And how do we build trust, like, or love, or all those things? How do we do that? Building massive rapport, right? Massive rapport. Now, do we build massive rapport by talking about the trip to Bermuda? How do we build massive rapport, Luke?
Through intel and just conversations by staying on the line. And,
Tone and gestures, and so let me ask you a question, Sharon. What made you buy the 2009 Legue? Yeah, no kidding. Wow. Must have just shuffled them in and out of there all weekend long, right? So I can ask it that way, or I can say, what made you buy the minivan? What was better? Where am I building rapport? Right? Hey, Sharon, let me ask you a question. What are one of the things you must have in the next car you buy? Right? Versus, what must you have in the next car you buy? Different, right? I'm building rapport. I'm being empathetic. Right? Now, the other thing we don't want to do is when we get to this stage of the 3 10s, is we don't want to start having a monologue with a customer either, right? I want to make sure that gets out. So when you get to your little sheet here, when you get, Eleanor's out there, just want to poke your head so she can come in. When you get to your sheet, your intel sheet, and you start gathering information, we don't want to start having a monologue. Does anybody know what that means? What does that mean? Yeah. But the other thing is, when I say to you, are you currently adding or replacing? Right? I can say, hey, let me ask you a question. Are you adding or replacing the current car you drive? And he says, I'm adding. Great. We don't say, oh, hey, that's awesome, man. You come to the right spot, baby. This is the greatest spot to do business. You'll never get any better service than you did here. Right? We want to answer the questions and move on. Because what are we? We're sharp as a tack. We're enthusiastic. We got to move. Experts move at what kind of pace? Sharon? if you rewound your life working in the food business as an expert, how many of your days were spent standing still doing nothing? How much temperature, how much heat was put on things being done at a specific period of time? Everything, right? So if it wasn't done, we're in big trouble. So we want to perceive that same sense of urgency in our store, that when it comes time, let me ask you a few, not can I, let me ask you a few questions so I can speed this process up a little bit when it comes to the intel. So we're not asking questions, we're gathering intelligence, right? So that we know when we're doing this sheet of paper, because we know they've got to fall in love with our product 10 out of 10. They know they've got to like us 10 out of 10. And number 3, what's the third one? They've got to
Love the place and company.
They got to love the place they do business and the company that represents the brand on the front of the store. Now the good news for us is we have 2 brands, right? We have the brand Kia, which represents 4% of the market share, roughly. And we have the brand Lally, which represents a much bigger than 4% of the brand locally. Now we cater to a provincial, sometimes national market, but we have to keep in the back of our mind these 3 things. They have to love you, they have to love your product, they have to love you, and they have to love your company and the brand that you represent, or you're peeing in the wind. No question. And we do that by looping. So every time we use transitional phrases, right, it's as easy as this to get started. I think I want to think about it. Oh, we've done something wrong. He wants to think about it. We loop back by using language patterns that allow us to do it eloquently and professionally. And when we're looping back, the loops get tighter and tighter and tighter. Every time we loop back, and we will practice literally these phrases today, every time we move down and I say to you, hey, based on the information you've given me, it sounds like a product here would be a perfect fit for you. So we finish the intel and I say to you, hey, Lori, listen, based on the information I've gathered here today, I think the product from here would be a perfect fit for you. Is he going to buy right there? Is he going to hear that anywhere else in the car world? He might hear, hey, Lori, based on the information you've given me, a product here might be a perfect fit. But he won't hear, hey, Lori, based on the information we've gathered here today, I think one of our products might be a perfect fit for you. Come on with me. Right? Difference. Same thing, but different remarks. So now, are they going to buy there? No. But what, have we moved down? Have we started the sale by saying that? Louis? Have we started the sales process?
Yeah, we started.
Sure we have, right? What are we building?
Rapport.
Sharon just said it. We're building rapport. Based on the information you've given me, I think our product might be a perfect fit for you. Right? I think our product might be a perfect fit for you. What a transitional phrase! Right? Takes us out of the intel gather right into the presentation stage of our program. And isn't that what we want to do, right? Well, based on everything you just told me, it sounds like our product might fit you perfect, might be perfect for you, you might just enjoy so much. Whatever the term finally ends up to be to fit your language, write this down. Write this down. I will memorize the transitional phrase that's easiest for me to say. So we know that, well, based on all the information you told me, Lori, I think one of our products would be perfect for you. That's mine. Well, based on all the information you gave me today, Jim, I think one of the cars sitting on the lot would work for you just great. That might be somebody else's. But at the end of the day, should it be different for each person, or should it be exactly the same every time? Exactly the same every time. You know what, Luke, based on the information you gave to me today, it sounds like one of our products would be perfect for you. Come on with me, let's go take a look.